In 1486, a stonemason named Thomas Betson built a cottage in the Cotswolds with a steeply pitched roof covered in water reed. His great-great-great-grandson re-thatched it in 1547. The next full replacement came in 1615, then 1681, then 1748. 5 generations lived under essentially the same roof design, each thatch lasting 60 to 70 years before needing complete replacement. The cottage still stands today in Wiltshire, its current thatch installed in 1998, and it's expected to last until 2060. Meanwhile, across England and North America, millions of homeowners replace their asphalt shingle roofs every 12 to 20 years. Some fail in as little as 8 years. The roofing industry has become a perpetual replacement cycle, a multi-billion-dollar treadmill of deterioration and renewal. We've been told this is normal, that modern materials simply wear out, that maintenance is the price of homeownership. But the medieval record tells a different story. A thatched roof installed in 1450 could shelter a family until 1520. A modern roof installed in 2010 is already failing by 2025. What changed? And more importantly, what did medieval thatchers know that we've forgotten? Medieval thatchers didn't use just any straw or grass. They understood that durability began with selection. The 2 primary materials, water reed and long straw wheat, weren't chosen arbitrarily. Water reed, Phragmites australis, grows in marshlands and riverbanks across Europe, producing tall, hollow stems that can reach 6 to 9 feet in height. When harvested in winter after the plant has died back, these reeds are already lignified, their cell walls reinforced with lignin, the same compound that makes trees woody and resistant to decay. Long straw came from heritage wheat varieties like Maris Widgeon or Old English varieties, grown specifically for thatching. These weren't modern dwarf wheat strains bred for maximum grain yield. Medieval wheat stood 4 to 5 feet tall with long, strong stems. Farmers harvested it with scythes or sickles, cutting high on the stalk to preserve the full length of the straw. After threshing done carefully with flails to avoid shattering the stems, the straw was stored in dry barns for at least a year. This aging process allowed remaining sugars to break down, making the material less attractive to insects and more resilient to moisture. The harvesting calendar mattered enormously. Reeds cut in January, after repeated frosts, were harder and more durable than those cut in autumn. Straw from wheat harvested in late July or early August, when fully ripe but not over-mature, had the ideal balance of strength and flexibility. A thatcher in 1450 Lincolnshire would reject straw that was too green, too brittle, or improperly stored. Quality control happened at the source before a single bundle reached the roof. A medieval thatched roof wasn't a thin layer of plant material. It was a compressed mass 12 to 14 inches thick, sometimes up to 18 inches at the ridge. This thickness wasn't excessive. It was structural. Each bundle of reed or straw was laid at a steep angle, typically 45 to 50 degrees, with the butt ends facing down and outward. Thatchers worked from the eaves upward, securing each course with hazel or willow spars, pointed wooden staples, twisted from flexible rods, and tying the material to the roof battens with tarred hemp cord or split willow. The density of the thatch created a barrier that rain couldn't penetrate. Water hitting the surface ran down the stems, following the natural channels formed by the hollow reeds or the aligned straw. As long as the pitch was steep enough, moisture never soaked through to the interior layers. The thickness also meant that even if the outer 2 inches weathered and degraded over time, the inner 10 to 12 inches remained intact and functional. A thatched roof wore from the outside in, gradually, predictably, giving decades of warning before failure. Medieval thatchers understood compression. They didn't just pile material loosely. They used leggers, wooden paddles, or bats to beat the thatch into place, compacting it into a dense, interwoven mat. This compression expelled air gaps, tightened the bind between layers, and created a surface so tight that wind couldn't lift individual stems. A well-compressed roof could withstand gales that would strip modern shingles in minutes. Thatch was never sealed. It was a breathing roof, allowing water vapor from inside the home to escape while keeping rain out. Medieval cottages had open hearth fires with no chimneys. Smoke rose through the thatch itself, especially in the earliest designs. This constant, gentle smoke had a preservative effect. The tars and resins in wood smoke coated the inner layers of the thatch, inhibiting fungal growth and deterring insects. By the 15th century, when chimneys became more common, the principle of ventilation remained. Thatch allowed air to circulate through its structure, preventing the moisture accumulation that rots modern materials. Modern asphalt shingles create an impermeable barrier. Water vapor from cooking, bathing, and breathing rises through a house and hits the underside of the roof deck. If the attic isn't perfectly ventilated, and few are that moisture condenses on the cold roof sheathing. Over time, the wood rots, insulation becomes soaked, and the shingles themselves begin to fail from beneath. Ice dams form in winter when trapped heat melts snow, which then refreezes at the eaves. The weight and expansion of ice tears, shingles loose, and damages flashing. Thatch had no such problems. Moisture that reached the roof dissipated naturally through the porous material. The steep pitch meant snow rarely accumulated, and when it did, the insulating properties of the thick thatch prevented the freeze-thaw cycles that destroy modern roofs. A thatched cottage in Yorkshire could endure winters that would shred asphalt in a decade. Medieval households didn't install a roof and forget it. Thatching was maintained continuously. Every spring, a family would inspect their roof, looking for loose spars, wind damage, or bird activity. Crows and jackdaws loved to pull at thatch to build nests, creating small gaps that could expand. A thatcher would be called to spar and repair, replacing damaged sections, adding fresh material to thinning areas, and securing loose edges. These repairs cost little, often paid in ale or a share of the harvest, and they extended the roof's life indefinitely. There was also a cultural expectation of craftsmanship. Thatching was a specialized trade passed down through families. A master thatcher took pride in work that would outlast him. His reputation in the village depended on roofs that endured for generations. If a roof failed prematurely, everyone knew whose work it was. This social accountability created an incentive for quality that modern manufacturing lacks. A shingle manufacturer in 2025 has no relationship with the homeowner whose roof fails in 12 years. The thatcher in 1485 lived in the same village as his clients. He saw his work every day. The economics reinforced this. Thatching materials were local and renewable. A village with access to marshland or wheat fields had an endless supply of roofing material. The cost was labor, not materials, and labor was abundant. Entire communities participated in thatching bees. where neighbors would help gather reeds, prepare bundles, and assist the master thatcher. The roof belonged to the community as much as to the household. Modern asphalt shingles are petroleum products manufactured in factories, shipped across continents, and installed by crews working on tight schedules. The shingles themselves are fiberglass or organic felt mats, saturated with asphalt and coated with ceramic granules. They're designed to be cheap, fast to install, and uniform. But their lifespan is built-in obsolescence. Asphalt degrades under UV radiation. The sun's ultraviolet rays break down the chemical bonds in the asphalt, causing it to become brittle. The granules, which protect the asphalt from direct sun exposure, begin to shed within the first few years. You can see them washing down gutters after rainstorms, accumulating in downspouts. As the granules disappear, the asphalt is exposed directly to sunlight and heat. It cracks, it curls. It loses its waterproofing ability. Temperature cycling accelerates this. A black asphalt roof in Texas can reach 160 degrees Fahrenheit in summer, then drop to 40 degrees Fahrenheit at night. This expansion and contraction happens daily, thousands of times over a decade. The shingles fatigue, developing stress fractures. In northern climates, freeze-thaw cycles do similar damage. Water seeps into tiny cracks, freezes, expands, and tears the shingle apart from within. Wind is another factor. Asphalt shingles are nailed or stapled to plywood or OSB sheathing. In high winds, the shingles act like sails, lifting and flapping. The nails tear through the material, especially once the asphalt has become brittle. A storm that wouldn't have touched a 14-inch thick thatched roof can strip half the shingles off a modern house. And then there's the installation. Modern roofing crews work fast, often completing an entire house in a day or two. Corners are cut, nails are misplaced, flashing is improperly sealed. Valleys where two roof planes meet are particular weak points. Water concentrates in valleys, and if the installation isn't perfect, leaks develop within years. A medieval thatcher worked slowly, methodically, checking every course, every spar. Speed wasn't the goal. Longevity was. Why do we accept roofs that fail in 15 years? The answer is upfront cost. In 2025, re-roofing a typical 2,000 square foot house with asphalt shingles costs $8,000 to $12,000. A thatched roof for the same house, if you could even find a skilled thatcher in North America, would cost $40,000 to $60,000. The initial expense is prohibitive, but the math changes over time. That asphalt roof will need replacement in 15 years, then again 15 years later, and again. Over 60 years, you'll pay for 4 roofs $32,000 to $48,000, not accounting for inflation. The thatched roof, meanwhile, might need minor repairs totaling $5,000 to $10,000 over the same period, but no full replacement. The modern economy discourages long-term thinking. Mortgages are 30 years. Most people move within 10 years. Why pay for a roof that will last 60 years if you won't be there to benefit? The incentive is to choose the cheapest option now and let the next owner deal with replacement. This thinking is rational at the individual level, but devastating at the societal level. We've created an entire industry: roofing, shingle manufacturing, disposal around planned obsolescence. There's also the issue of skill loss. In 1500, every English village had thatchers. By 1900, The trade was declining as slate and tile became fashionable. By 2000, only a few hundred master thatchers remained in the UK and fewer than 50 in North America. The knowledge base eroded. Young people didn't apprentice because there was no market. The market didn't exist because no one knew thatching was an option. It's a self-reinforcing cycle of forgetting. What exactly was lost when we abandoned thatch? First, material literacy. Medieval thatchers could identify dozens of plant species suitable for roofing and knew which grew best in which soils, which harvesting techniques preserved strength, and which storage methods prevented rot. They understood botany, climatology, and structural engineering through hands-on experience accumulated over centuries. Second, regional adaptation. A thatcher in Devon used different techniques than one in Norfolk because the climate, available materials, and architectural styles differed. Thatch in wet, windy Cornwall was laid steeper and denser than in drier East Anglia. This local knowledge allowed roofs to perform optimally in their specific environment. Modern shingles are uniform, manufactured to national standards that ignore regional variation. Third, the integration of building systems. Medieval builders designed entire structures around the roof. Walls were thick to support the weight of thatch. Eaves extended far beyond the walls to keep rain off the vulnerable base. Roof pitches were calculated to shed water quickly while providing enough surface area for thick coverage. The house was a unified system. Modern construction separates these elements. We build standard walls, standard frames, and then slap on whatever roofing is cheapest, regardless of whether the components work together. Fourth, the concept of living materials. Thatch was organic, renewable, biodegradable. At the end of its life, old thatch was composted or burned for fertilizer. There was no waste stream, no landfills full of asphalt shingles that will leach petroleum byproducts for centuries. Medieval building was circular by necessity. Modern building is extractive and disposable. Can we reclaim this knowledge? In parts of Europe, there's a revival. Denmark, the Netherlands, and Germany are training new thatchers, and some municipalities offer tax incentives for thatched roofs on historic buildings. The skills are being documented. Apprenticeships are growing, and a small but dedicated community is proving that thatch can work in the 21st century. But the real lesson isn't that everyone should thatch their roof, though some certainly could. It's that our assumptions about modern superiority are often wrong. We've traded durability for convenience, longevity for low upfront cost, and resilience for uniformity. A medieval thatcher working in 1450 wasn't primitive or backwards. He was a master of his craft, producing a product that we still can't match with all our technology. The thatched roofs lasting 60 years weren't flukes. They were the result of careful material selection, skilled craftsmanship, continuous maintenance, and a culture that valued durability over speed. Modern shingles fail in 15 years because they're designed to not through explicit conspiracy, but through the accumulated effects of cost-cutting, skill loss, and economic incentives that reward replacement over resilience. We could build roofs that last 60 years. We could train people in traditional crafts. We could design buildings as integrated systems rather than assemblies of cheap parts. But it would require rethinking what we value. Do we want homes that endure for generations, or houses that are easy to sell and cheap to build? The medieval answer was clear. Ours remains uncertain.